one, but on this one, and I think the main issues are basically about forging ahead. But suffice to say, Chair, that what we are basically working on in assisting this process from a GRC point of view, risk as well as governance, and working with the entities, is shaping the existing structures and information of these bills into what will be the contribution to the growth of the economy, what will be the job creation elements that will be coming from there. And I think that will be an add-on on what the minister raised in terms of this to the MTDP in terms of growth and as a way of ensuring that from a departmental point of view, we are also contributing to improving the status quo of the country's situation. If I go to program 5, trade policy is basically managing the events such as your funerals as well as state visits by providing infrastructure to those state visits as well as state events. So we have provided 5 that we had also had 4 that were unplanned. So in a total of 9, it's 1 planned and 4 unplanned. So a total of 5 for the quarter. Chair and honourable members, we will continuously report on unplanned ones as they come ad hoc because the expenditure still comes from this program, so that we are able to show the total quantum planned and unplanned in relation to the expenditure as well. That's why we also report them separately as that. Then going forward into other prestige policy matters on slide 16, we have not done very well in terms of appointment of 10 key solutions, of alternative backup power usage. Now, this also was a good intention owing to the issues of electricity, and but however, there were issues around the funds that would have been allocated to carry out this function. So we've been struggling in accessing funds for this, and I think that will also require a review on alternative approaches, as Minister also highlighted earlier on in the establishment of project units to look at alternative ways of how we can then improve this. Going into the PMTE on slide 18, we're sitting at 75% on financial performance. With various, I think when we go to the presentation on finance, you'll see the various components, particularly when you look at the financial ratios, that will also identify these areas and also the issues around underspending. Real estate investment services on slide 19. This is basically a compulsory indicator in terms of submission of CM, which is basically an aggregation of all the user needs that will then inform how we then report as well as also seeking funding for all these needs that is was concluded in the second quarter on CM submitted to National Treasury, but also the work the user needs in terms of the various chapters that we consolidate information from the users, which is in terms of properties for letting out in strategic development areas. We have identified for targeting 400 for letting of government properties as well as 50 for strategic, although they are not quota targets. But the work is actually continuing, where in terms of the properties within government, there are 103 properties that have been confirmed for letting out, with 31 properties that have been identified for confirmation in terms of the strategic developments. I think that's also going to be part of our bigger optimization strategy. Real estate investment services, which is our investment, continues as well. Though we have not done well in terms of development of standards for guide the DSC, SAPS, Home Affairs, and also Department of Justice There has been some inception reports that have been completed, status quo. So these are basically, though not a quota target, but they are documents and inputs that we're getting from these various stakeholders, which is an improvement based on Q2, where we had not even done the designs and the guidelines. So at least now the inception reports and generic start guidelines have now been developed, and there's a consultation going ahead. With regards to precinct, the 8 precincts technical specifications on the identified precincts, and those have actually been completed, which will then move towards developing a full plan on those precincts. Coming to the construction project management, the Minister did highlight on these issues as well. And suffice to say, Chair, we're looking at Program 8 and Program 8.1, which is a sub-program within construction called the PMO, is basically to say over and above the challenges that we're experiencing from the delays in capacity. And if you look at it in terms of this breakdown of all our regional offices, where we also feel bleeding in terms of capacity, we are experiencing the delays from particularly the engineering services from the different provinces in finalizing the concept designs. We also experience that capacity also affects in the projects that should be completed within time. But over and above that, which was an intention in the last meeting we had, where we had also invited National Treasury, was to also send the message across about the delays in the confirmation of funds by client departments that also affects the project planning as well as the implementation of projects. So those are basically the general measures that affect construction project management. As Minister has alluded to that, to address these issues, we are establishing these PM project units to ensure that then we re-engineer and refocus this project, the construction of projects going forward in the particularly enhancing and feeding into that, turning South Africa into a construction site, and that basically is the fundamental aspect. To the project management on slide 24, project management office on slide 24. This then speaks to the harbors. We had 25 targeted for Q3. 8 of them have been completed, which translates into 32%. And again, the issues are around the completion certificates that we are experiencing in delays to conclude on this. But we also have experienced, Chair and honourable members, in terms of the harbours on the special development frameworks, as well as the harbour development precincts. But I think that is also underway, where there's intervention as well from the PMTE, as well as assisted by the Minister, in terms of identifying the areas where we can speed up these processes and identified areas where we can improve on the harbours. On slide 25 on real estate management services, without going into detail, Chair, you'll see that there's consistency in terms of the poor performance in real estate. This is basically one of the issues that there was an intervention in relation to refocusing the leasing portfolio, particularly when the Minister made mention of the comparison in terms of the square meterage of these leases, and also to have a refocus on this. So there was an intervention to sort of have a breakdown and then move into an approach that then will also yield the results and also be able to determine the square meterage for each. So that has basically affected this program. But there's movement in terms of identifying this, particularly to avoid irregularities of the escalation prices over a period, the period of the duration of the leases, as well as the determination of the square meterage, as well as the location of those, especially with regards to the needs of the clients. And I think overall, as part of the strategy, portfolio strategy, is to also looking at balancing our government stock as well as private. So that is also underway, as and hopefully in the fourth quarter and annually we'll see some traction when we come into when we come to the portfolio to report. The last second last program is the asset register, the real estate information register on slide 27. We have supported 3 provinces, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and KZN, in terms of assessing the movable asset for compliance, and we also provide physical verification. So we also do physical verification to verify the valid and validate the existence of those assets. Though we're sitting at 4,780 assets for Q3 against 5,479, the challenge has been because of the warm bodies that are required to do this on site. They were on a contract basis, and that also is a discussion over and above just employing continuously on contract, but a review of the asset register structure to ensure that we have the relevant warm bodies as a permanent solution to a contract basis. So that also fits into your vacancy rate, as well as the continuous discussion with DPSA and National Treasury on the critical positions that will be required to actually drive this processes as well as the functions of the department. The last couple of slides would be the facilities management chair and honorable members. We still continue on the condition assessment, and then for critical and also the condition assessment of identified properties, as well as identified components such as your HVAC, heating, ventilation, aircon, and gensets. Also, we have challenges in terms of the young professions that were also on contract who were assisting us in this regard. They came to an end, and that's also part of the review of the of the capacity that will be required as a permanent solution to this. But to supplement that, we also use the technical, or rather, water facilities management panels to actually assist with the the maintenance of facilities. Also, it's a term contract that also term facilities management, total facilities management contract that also expired in the quarter. So there's still a process at the SAM level procurement processes to ensure that we also bring that to finality. Chair and honorable members, overall, that's basically the detail that expresses the 34% for Q3. And then the next slides will then go into the financial positions of the organization. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Tom, representing financial information. Chair, I have less than 7 minutes. I'll try to only give it some of it. Nola, I will be with slide number 32, 37, 41, 43, 45, 5 years of March. Okay. The performance information for finances for the department, which is the number 80, which is a summary. I'm not going to go into the present because we have. Sorry.
It is on. It's on.
So the financial performance for the main vote, it's 5.6 billion against the budget of 7.6 billion, which is 74% spending, which is almost in line with the guidelines that are set by National Treasury for the third quarter that ended in December 2024. What I want to highlight in that summary, there is underspending on program 4. That's where project preparation is managed through IPC. At the time of this report, Chair, the spending was very low, because that's what the financials were saying. However, we had a meeting with the head of ISA.
Sorry, Chairperson. There's just been an indication that RCT are available to assist with the streaming. We are live streaming at the moment, but they just need 5 minutes to sort out the RCT infrastructure there, if you can allow. Well, otherwise, we can just proceed, Chair. Sorry, sir.
Are you still online?
Okay, that's perfect.
Thank you. So what ISA has indicated through the head of ISA, they won't be able to spend a significant amount of money, except the 72 million that is projected to be underspent. But there is a process to request the rollover from national. You can see the amount that is invested. That one is due to cash flow that was not requested for national payment as at end of 31st December 2024 due to inauguration, but that has been resolved in the final quarter. You're not going to see that. But in terms of the available cash, we have 177 million in total, which was not spent. Then go to slide 32 is just a breakdown of the expenditure per economic classification, which I'm not going to deal with it because I've already summarized the key issues. Then, Chair, I will move straight then to slide number 37. I will also highlight one issue that has made a concern for the committee. That is DPWI integrated grant for municipalities. You can see that the spending was sitting at 6% at the end of December. The DPWI has intervened because we can't transfer money to municipalities that are not compliant with DORA. So, but there are a lot of interventions that DPWI has. So the fruits of that you cannot see in this report. Perhaps the last quarter we begin to see the fruits of such intervention. Which will continue because we find that the municipality do not comply in the fourth, and then we intervene, they comply in the following quarter, they repeat the same thing. So it's a continuous intervention that DPWI is putting. Then if you then move to slide number 41 for PMTE, is a report of PMTE and planning the main goal. In slide 41, I will also highlight the issues there. I need to emphasize, Chair, the PMTE received a voted budget from the region of 4.2 billion, which is augmentation. That is the only appropriated fund that the PMTE received. Then the other amounts which are exchanged from transaction, these are the amounts that we get through plans departments. So the plans departments that get budget fund. So we are at the mercy of the plans departments, which amounts to 11.6 billion. Why, Chair, I'm highlighting this because when we started the year, the original projected budget that we were expecting from plans was 18.4 billion. But during the year, it has decreased to 1.8 by 1.8 billion, which then leaves us with 11.6. And it continues depending on the behavior of plans. Having said that, against that 11.6 billion which we get from plans departments, we managed to receive 8.7 billion, which then it's 75% of what we have received. However, I must highlight the issue of private leases. Defense Chair, they cut the budget for this lease, despite the fact that we have contractual obligations with the landlord. I must say, Chair, during the day after me yesterday, there was a confirmation from the CFO Defense to say they will find money for this lease to pay. And it's due to the intervention also that the minister has put where the alternate of the minister still waiting for a meeting with the Minister of Defense because it's not only on the CDC, there are a lot of issues with defense when it comes to one. And if I then move to slide number 43, on slide number 43, I will also highlight the issues because of time. What are the key things that I would like to highlight? As I indicated, you can see the revision of the budget in the third column. It's because of the reasons that I have already outlined. But what is the impact of the behavior of clients when they reduce without even consulting us? It then made our leases to expend 81%, which we ought to expend 75% in terms of maintenance. Is our day-to-day maintenance. When the client's any plan touch the budget, then affect our day-to-day maintenance. As a result, you see the high spending of 95%, whereas we were supposed to be 75%. However, there are also financial leakages within our environment, which then the GRC is looking at that in terms of investigation. So the overall spending for current expenditure for PMTE sitting at 78%, which is above the guideline of 75%. Already highlighted the concerns which are highlighted. And 8%, which is good. It's a demonstration that for me to additional trade and listening. So it's a work in progress, and the minister well, but it's already indicated intervention put in place. The fruit of those interventions, I need to see them as the ministers and the next 5 years. This we are not going to see any fruits of such intervention. If they are able to complete until the end. Having said that, for refurbishment, we have spent 51%. DPWI capital 73%, which I think we are doing right, because it's just below 75%. Whereas Plein capital is the one that is concerning. So overall for infrastructure, we are sitting at 55%. Then just to then complete for the interest of time, slide number 48. So on slide number 48, the clients are owing us 14 billion. Of interventions that are underway. One of the key ones, as I said, we have met national treasure. Is to develop an instrument that will force departments and also not to touch budget as they wish. So we send to them, and they then submit let's not be finalized, because they need to consult within the national treasure to make sure that document will really assist us. So those are the key interventions that also treasure is putting in place, while also the minister is putting other interventions. Thank you, Chair, for the interest and I think I'm covered all the issues.
We have
Honorable Chair, member said you, Honorable Galanga can act on her behalf.
No, so I'm just experiencing a bit of whether it's a network or it's on your side, but Delange, can you take over if I'm audible? Nola? Am I audible? I'm struggling to hear from that side, but for the sake of progress, can you continue? I can't hear. I only got some cards. I'm not sure. Nola, we are completely off from on this side, on the platform. Try to reconnect us while Delange proceed with the meeting.
can complain about budget cuts from Treasury when we can't spend the money that we have. We still let's strengthen compliance mechanisms. I'm concerned about the EPWP grants, which we say is due to non-compliance, not on the part of the EPWP recipients, but on the part of the department. So where is the this compliance mechanism that we find to be the issue? Let us also improve revenue collection strategies. Let's find ways of improving. If it means us having a workshop as a committee, let's workshop this and let's find innovative ways of improving our collection strategies. The issue of procurement inefficiencies to ensure that goods, services, and capital projects proceeds as planned. Let's address this. Procurement inefficiencies. What causes the delay in procurement? Where's the bottlenecks? And let's start to hold departments accountable. You know, I don't like to see in a report, I don't like to see red blocks. The moment I see red blocks, it gets my attention. You know, among Indian people, you see Indian ladies, they have a red dot on the forehead, red dot. You know what it means? It means full stop. You can't go past that. The red dot, it means they're married. So when I see a red dot, when I see a red box here in our reports, it means something is wrong. Something is seriously wrong there. We don't want you to come and give us a report that says everything is painted nice and rosy, but then we see red blocks. The red blocks must be removed. That's what our main aim is, and that's what we want to see. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, members. That's before we proceed with all of matters. I will request that we become time conscious. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the portfolio and officials present, the minister, and I'll try to be short and limit to my questions. If some of them covered by others already, we know that we ask everything. Chair, I think I would want to start with the issue of the beneficiaries of the bursaries. I think in one of the meetings we had, if I'm not mistaken, we said that we shouldn't come with reports that are generalizing, in the sense that we would want to check these beneficiaries that are getting these bursaries from the department, if maybe perhaps if they break down the number of those that end up being taken by the department. But I think it's not a fair or right that you give bursaries out and you don't then recognize those that you give bursaries so that you can intake to be part of the department that it is. So, Chair, on the issue of the bills, I saw in the document somewhere that it says that certain bills are being revised by the minister. And I am interested in to know which of those bills, because the DM has reported earlier that some of the bills, a report has been received from that particular component within the presidency, and we are waiting for finalization. Chair, the next question I have is that since the department is still yet to approve the consolidated motivation, for filling of vacancies, can we be provided a time frame that we're waiting for long for this filling of vacancies? Hence, on the even now adding an issue of whether is there political interference. What measures are in place to address the matter of moratorium and capacity problems in engineering, which led to REMS and CPM achieving zero targets? And the last question, Chair, is that when can we expect the matter of disputes to be finalized? And what is the cause of delay in relation to intergovernmental information? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Although most of the questions that I was going to ask have been covered, but I will try and ask a few. Number one, on the issue of the bursaries, I wish we can get a list of beneficiaries as to where they come from across the country. Like for instance, so I wish we can make that list, extensive list, and also how do you advertise those bursaries? How do people get access to that information? And also on the issue of the 30-day delay in payments, that one is also something that is very close to the I came across a comprehensive list again from National Treasury regarding the non-compliance by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. How I wish, in fact, not how I wish, I would request the DG and all the senior managers here to provide us with the report, a comprehensive report on how companies, especially those that have not been paid within this. I'd like to see that, because we want and appreciate would love to monitor that one, because it's killing the department, it's costing the department and lots of monies. Another thing here is the role of the minister when it comes to lists. What is the role of the minister when it comes to lists? And also on the issue of DOD, the last time in our meeting, the DTG from PMTE, he said the only thing that the reason why they don't pay such and such an amount of money is because the budget it's far less than what they are expected to pay. So I'm just wondering as to where will they get the money from, but I know it's not for you to answer that one. It's just a comment. And also on the issue of the EPWP, also I'm really very much worried about the non-compliance by the municipalities. It's worrying, it's worrying a lot. So to the DTG for activities for requesting a progress report, because last time I checked, I saw that a number of vacancies on EPWP were not being filled. I just wanted to check. Even now, I would appreciate if I can be informed as to how we now in terms of post. And because of time constraints, I'm not going to go on further. But yeah, this non-compliance by municipalities, in your view, is it deliberate or what is the Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm partly covered, but on the issue of vacancy rates, filling of vacancies, I want to know how long has this been? How long have we had these vacancies? And what is the impact of secondary delivery of these vacancies? Because you can't just keep saying vacancies when we can instead of that impact in service delivery. And I also want to check with the construction project management on slide 21. You gave reasons there on why you have not been able to reach these targets, and capacity problems with engineering. That's not funded, and sometimes what are you planning? What are you these challenges? As well, the impact on services when projects are taking too long, and maybe has there been engagement or reach an understanding on how are they projects they get cancelled or they get dropped or restarted, and that makes it a little bit things for us. But also how DPWI with other projects. Once a project is that must be frozen on the other side of the partner, and so there must be a thorough proposal on how DPWI can take over this project. There must be that form of commitment from the department. On slide 23, panels of the panels. It's to check if the minister can there were a few challenges that were left. The role this was placed. At this point, you know that the board is not functional, and in fact, it does not exist because it doesn't reach quorum, and therefore it will happen. So maybe the minister can give us that explanation how that has happened, so that the committee can get a better understanding. On the number of bridges, I know the deputy minister was the minister then. So structured 6 provinces. The report says only 8 bridges have been completed. I don't know, because the comment says that the delays are in finalizing completion certificates. How many of these bridges are we still waiting for completion certificates? And when do you intend on concluding these 96 bridges, in fact? And with DPWP, you say 1 million jobs. These are temporary jobs. And maybe we must also get what is the duration of these jobs? And 4 months and so on. And what is the plan? How do you intend on once you say you have created 1 million jobs, give people an impression that there's something serious and significant that has been done. And we know that these are very temporal employment, and maybe there should be that level of how do you plan on absorbing them into formal employment. There's a serious crisis of, and I've mentioned this before, of private leases. And I hope that DG in the meeting that we had with PMTE took the resolutions very serious, because we raised serious issues on departments opting to go private instead of government-owned buildings. And I'm very worried that we are still going to go through that journey of departments opting for private uses instead of public owned. And we also know on the user charges as well, they are completely extreme. Makes no sense. And maybe as part of revenue collection, you need to look into that as well. And that needs to be discussed, CFO, with National Treasury. I'm happy that you said revenue system. That's one thing that you need to discuss. The user charges, they're completely ridiculous and they make it very difficult for this department to action. So those are some of the issues that I wanted to raise. But on the issue of machinery and equipment, CFO, you said that so if we can get a confirmation of how much was used for the refurbishment of the dome, particularly on this, because in your slides you said 43 million, if I'm not mistaken, on refurbishment, and then you make a disclaimer that that money was also used for the refurbishment of the dome. So if we can get a confirmation of how much exactly was used for this dome. I want to check, why are the requirements for the presidential inauguration report reported as unplanned state function? Because we know once every 5 years after elections, we must go to a presidential inauguration. And why do we then classify these as unplanned state functions? And because we also know they've got financial implications to them. Do we have a debt collection strategy? If we do, how effective is it in assisting us to collect our revenue from these departments? And maybe the minister can also furnish us with a clearer report on what is it that he has done outside of just speaking to the Department of Defense with regards to the department being able to collect the money that is owed to the department. These other monies may be seen as small monies, basic education and all of that, but once we put them together, they make up a great sum of money that can work effectively for this commitment. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair. Well, I think I'm also largely covered by my colleagues, but I'm going to try to at least cover some of the issues that I don't think they have been able to tap into. Now, I want to speak to the issue of non-compliance. I see that progress has been made, relatively a good amount of progress has been made in this quarter, but you still aren't reaching 95%. What mechanisms are you using, especially streamlining what the Auditor General has said into your matrix so that we reach 95% on all compliance? It can't be that we come back here all the time and talk about we are unable to reach full compliance. It must be streamlined within your processes so that whenever or a job must be completed or processed, it is within the 95% of the compliance. So I just need to know if you are streamlining that into your matrix. The prestige policy, I see that you have set up a couple of KPIs, but they're all in red. And I think partly you say that you do not have funding for it. My advice is this department is setting itself up for failure if you put up KPIs without the funding, because it looks to us that you are not working, but you are unable. The reality is the inability to. If you do not have funding, some of the programs I've seen that they have not reached their spending for the third quarter, I think at about 51%. Why don't we reallocate some of those funds into prestige to ensure that those programs are done, that there's sufficient allocation to ensure that the KPI is reached and we do not see red blocks, as my colleague has said. I'd like to ask on the issue of the precincts, the Silvergop precinct. I think that's of particular interest. We have seen that there is a delay because there has been, I don't want to accuse the department of having insufficient social facilitation to the community that's there. But those delays must be attended to, and I'd like to know how, with the refusal of the communities moving from the precinct, how has that affected progress? How far are we? And what mechanisms are we employing to ensure that there's sufficient social facilitation between the department and the communities that stay there? 32% of the bridges are completed. I'd just like to know what's the reason for the poor performance? Also, I'd just like to know the budget spent on the 36 bridges that have been built so far. So if that's 32%, can we trust and marry that to the 33% budget that has been spent? We know that with delays comes cost overruns. We do not want to find the department in a place where they have completed only 32%, but the budget far exceeds that. The inefficiencies in the leasing, and I think the minister was well on track to actually explain to us about the inefficiencies that are found within the leasing. And the minister has hence put handbrakes on them on the leasing. I'd just like to know, do we have a detailed plan on how we're going to address these inefficiencies? Do we have timelines? Do we have turnaround strategies around them? Are we consulting legal? Who are we talking to? Or is it that we will wait for the minister to be satisfied without any real mechanism to guide that process on our end? I'd like to have sort of a monitoring and evaluation in terms of the inefficiencies that lie within leasing, and when can we expect a turnaround in terms of that? The GBV buildings that must be leased out, that must be used for that have a social value, but they're not being utilized. This department does not seem like it is prioritizing it. I'd like to see what is the turnaround strategy around that. The young professionals contract, I see that some of the work that the department is unable to reach at 100% is because the contracts have ended. The department needs a much more permanent strategy. I do appreciate that you put in place contracts so that you can expedite the work, but the work is indefinite. So why do we have contracts that end at a certain time? When they are out, who fills in this gap? The department really is setting itself up for failure when it is not fully capacitated to carry out. I see that EPWP has been withheld due to the DORA Act. I've heard a fair amount of criticism from my colleagues, but I'd like to commend the department on withholding that, because it cannot be that there isn't a mechanism to hold people to be responsible for the amounts of monies that come out. We see ghost employees, people, it's not regulated. So I'd like to commend the department on that. I think it is absolutely wonderful. With that, we know that now the municipalities are unable to really fulfill their regulatory duties in terms of the DORA Act. What are we doing as a department? You said you have established a war room in order to, debottleneck the delays within construction. Why can't we have the same thing replicated and put down right to municipalities so that we are able to streamline processes to ensure that we spend the full money of EPWP all the way from national level to implementation bodies that are able really to ensure that they comply with the DORA Act. So well done on the DORA Act. And also, I mean, we give you a lot of criticism, but also well done on the interventions with defense and trying to get national treasury here. I think that's one of the most problematic, or we can't find them, non-existent departments that honestly refuse to come to the party. So well done on the interventions of that. And I think it would be remiss if we as a portfolio do not acknowledge the work that you've done in that regard. This is a big issue. I see that in terms of representation within the vacancies that you filled, 47% is allocated to women and 3% is allocated to people with disabilities. So I would assume that the rest of the 50% is to the males. Now, people with disabilities and women are not mutually exclusive. So why don't we have 50% representation of women, 50% of representation of men, and then within that bulk, you find people with disabilities, because you can't say that you are taking from the women to give with people with disabilities, because you will find a disabled man. So this policy needs to be re-looked at and not disadvantage, especially the women. So, and also in your side notes, please do not say that there is an overrepresentation of males. Say that our matrix have allowed an overrepresentation of males because we've allocated a certain percentage only to women. The maintenance budget, I see that you've already surpassed your expenditure. That's in the third quarter. I'd like to maybe recommend that you take a fair amount from goods and services because I do not foresee it being completely done by the end of the year, and maybe reallocate that into the maintenance budget because we know that this department is trailing behind in terms of the maintenance of the buildings that it maintains, that it is leasing out to client departments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I'll be quick. I just want to make 3 comments. The one is just to commend the department on actually spending 74% of its budget. It's 74% of its total budget. I think Honorable already thought it was 74% of its quarterly budget. So well done on that. I think balancing the expenditure is commendable. Many interventions were mentioned by the CFO and the DG. So I think we can look forward to the annual report and see the fruits of those interventions when they come. I also think it's worth commending the department on its payment of property rates to municipalities. I think that's one of the largest undertakings that the department does as the largest landholder or property owner in the country. And we know that those municipalities depend on those funds for their functioning. And then I also just wanted to mention, I've also had situations where contractors have raised issues with regards to late payments or more than 30-day payments. It is a common issue, but I think we must differentiate between the provincial departments of public works and the national department when we hear these issues, because often is the case that it's not the national department, it's like a school project or a health project, etc. So let's just differentiate when those come about. I think I've also been largely covered, but I want to touch a little bit more on the vacancies. This issue comes up time and time again, and I believe that the DPSA does have a large role to play in terms of approvals and letting the department fill vacant posts. But for me, what I'm interested in is the level of the posts. I'm sorry if I missed it, but I'd like to see the level of the posts. And I'd also like to know, of these vacancies, how many of these are professional positions, because this is a professional department. It needs engineers, architects, so on and so forth. And it'd be interesting to see, is it the administrative staff that are lacking in capacity, or is it actually affecting the professionals within the department? So I think we will ask as a committee, or I'd recommend as a committee, we get a breakdown of those vacancies so we can see where those vacancies are and what the issues are specifically. So perhaps a quarterly report on the filling of the vacancies. You'll never have a department that is always 100% fully capacitated. There are always people resigning and retiring, etc. And then the last one is just on, the minister was about to explain to us before he was cut off, the 6 billion rand on leases that are spent every year. And he mentioned one of 7,500 rand per square meter being spent to a private landlord. I think if I can walk away with one thing from this meeting in response is, can the department explain to us what or how it is combing through all of its leases to determine what is value for money versus, I just like to understand the process. And just on that, I did ask, I think 2 portfolio committees ago, if the disposal process or policy could also be made available to the committee to read and understand. So those are my comments. Thank you very much. And questions.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the advantage of speaking. The last, sometimes it becomes very difficult. But Chair, let me ask you the questions that I think I didn't hear my colleagues raise them. One, the measures put in place to address the matter of cancellation of contracts when it comes to infrastructure projects. The other one, I think my colleagues has just covered me with regards to the plan to improve or the intervention made by the department with regards to the DPWI non-compliance by the municipalities. I heard the presenter saying that they try to intervene, they comply, the next day they don't comply, and then request that the department to put more efforts in making sure that those that are complying, they don't go back again to the non-compliant. On the presentation, I saw the branches that have not complied with regards to submitted the audit action plans. It is said that out of 11 branches, only 4 that submitted the audit action plans, and that delays in submission, resulting to the higher information and overlaps. So I just want to check with the department that what are they doing with regards to those branches that are not submitting their audit action plans? Because if there are issue of findings, audit action plans must be submitted and must be implemented in order to address the findings raised. On the issue of the money underspent by ISA, I heard the presenter is talking about the request made to the National Treasury to roll over the monies underspent. But I just want to check with you, what have you done to put actions in place in order to make sure that ISA is spending those monies? Because you can request the National Treasurer to make the rollovers, and you find that the ISA becomes underspending again, what are you going to do? So can we get a program in place as to how are you going to address that? The other questions that I want to check with the department, what informs the change of performance in different quarters to the decision on the new guidance when it comes to the department leases? What informs that? The other one, the responsibilities of the department and the PMT. Lastly, Chair, I just want to check on the issue of the redeployment of DDJs. What informs the changes to that? Lastly, I just want to respond on the comment made by the minister when the chairperson was raising the issue of the bills, that they must finalize the bills. The minister responded by saying the committee cannot instruct the executive to finalize the bills. I just want to say to the minister, as the portfolio committee, it's our duty to make sure that if there are bills brought to the portfolio committee, we must make sure that those bills are being implemented. And if the process has started, we want to know the process and everything and the progress as well. So it's our duty as the committee to make sure that laws are being passed by this committee. We cannot accept that statement that the committee cannot instruct the executive. I don't think that it was correct for the minister to say that. It's our duty to make sure that bills are being passed by the committee, especially those that are related to this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll ask my questions and then give it to the chair. And I'll be short like the honorable part. What you do and where we see the gaps, we ask with the intention that we must improve and do well. The few questions I want to ask is that there are 2 programs, program 6 and program 3. That is remember
Delange, I think we've lost you on this side. Knowles?
the vacancy, I want to confirm that, especially the semester, it is very directed to the process. How for SMS is the executive minister, and obviously to approve. But some of those below, that they are which I think our corporate can give a breakdown. Those ones are not part of the DPSA, so those ones we can fill them directly as soon as we have all agreed in the department. On the project preparations, I think the CFO did indicate there was a challenge in respect of this particular aspect where the money really gets requested they are busy with the process to finalize those responses. Yeah. So that's why there was a request for the rollover, maybe to look at ring-fencing the money, because it's one of the biggest issues that the ESA has raised with us to say maybe they should not be treated like a normal department because of the kind of work they do, etc. But I think if the head of ESA is here, will actually try to help us on that. The DPWP workers who's responsible for putting them on the streets, I think I just want to confirm that it was in this committee where, Chair, we actually reported that with the Deputy Minister to intervene. We were just told that the money has been cut. The issue of compliance with law, I think, overall, most of the members, they have to comply, unfortunately. We cannot really, as DPW, subject monies to areas where we're not. The question is, how are we dealing with that? I believe that Musa and the team, they're already engaging in respect to make sure that it does not. But I just want to indicate, there's a lot of people are complaining about this, but unfortunately, as long as they complain, this is the minor. The issue of debt, I must say, in terms of government, it's very difficult to go for politics. We've got an IGR framework that we utilize as government to engage me. I just want to indicate the challenge we have where, for instance, our contracted services, DM and Minister, and then the not give us the man. That's the problem, because we otherwise. And that is basically how really it becomes a delta. So the way of how we deal with the strategy into the kind of area. It not fail. I just want to highlight this. It's to spend money we don't have. Get in the head where they're going to provide money identify certain schools from rural areas, mainly those schools. But based on that program, we assess what we also from identify those who have passed very well, especially on maths and science, give them an opportunity to do in terms of our built environment. The minister allocate again. I mean, it's something that you always do every year. So I think we can provide a breakdown in terms of so, but I must emphasize that we really are encouraging. All right. I need to talk about that. Normally, what we do get the presidential. But what happens is, let's say, when the president is going to change the plan, for instance, what's going to happen maybe president some emissions and public works, we have to make sure that when the president meets those presidents, we must the facilities particularly when he meets them, whether it's in Cape Town, wherever that he meets with them. So we need to make sure. So that's why you find that there's a lot of unplanned programs. There's also state events. There's also planned state events. But generally, the ones that we know that are straightforward, the budget, the one that happens every 5 years, inauguration, those ones are well documented and clearly understood. So, but general unplanned is mainly as a direction from presidents. They tell us that the president's going to meet the president of Malawi. Let's prepare for that. So we do that. Honorable Kobe, the issue of the prestige policy with the red flags, I do agree. It's something that I've actually written. We always believe that I don't know what the mandate is appropriated to public works, especially PMTE, is 4 billion roughly. Other things there's an aspect so we get money. So is shown in our financial mandate. But there's no money specifically that they just give money and assume that we do. Same with Parliament, there's also those challenges. So I've said to the CA, around what this to have prestige. It's something that we need to look in terms of that. Precinct development, I do agree. The Salvacop was a very difficult project to start off with. And I just want to say maybe at some point, it will be important to really finish the park services. We really are trying to push. I just want to indicate that part of the challenges we're having with the Salvacop in terms of really moving with speed, in terms of completion, is also the issue of funding. DHED has committed to the part of the partners that are going to come to Salvacop, but they're not doing that by giving us money to actually effect that particular activity. So they owe us, I think, about 68 million. But yet we've already, if you like, started the project. Myself and there's still to happen around that. But the issue of the people there around them really not agreeing with moving from point A, where we actually said they must move, because it's actually a human settlement issue or nightmare. There's engagement in terms of social fight. There's a full team. In fact, we put a specific dedicated chief director dealing with social facilitation in that particular project. It's a continuous engagement within ourselves, the councillors, and also the city of Tshwane. It's quite difficult, I must say, but if you come to Salvador, you see the work is continuous. It's just that as we move, we always need to manage the process of people who are not happy in respect of that. The other ones are done. The issue of the GPV houses that we allocate to different municipalities, well, let me just say, we do this out of our understanding that these are actually meant to support those poor, difficult conditions that people find themselves in. Maybe it will be important to take note, based on what the honorable members have raised, that how do we turn around to make sure that we monitor also if those houses are still actually utilized for the purpose they were given. Because I did indicate last time when I was here, for government at all, but enjoying the benefits of the state at the 200 rand rate, I always say that the CFO complains about. So that monitoring, I think the PMTE will try and do that as a way going forward. Maybe going as far as giving a report, maybe Mrs. Bande in respect of the same. Contract workers, how do we fill the gap when the contract is ended? So it's a very difficult. I must say, when it comes to young professionals, I must indicate, public works do this particular program. It falls under professional services. It's for the sector. It's not necessarily for only public works consumption. Maybe there's more engagement that needs to happen at the COCTA level, at POSAT level. Let me just put it, because these engineers who are young, I think I expressed my dissatisfaction, Minister, I think last week, when one of the ladies that we paid a lot of money to develop, she did BSc degree at sport. And when I asked where she is, they couldn't place her, and she's now a lecturer. I'm not saying to be a lecturer is wrong, but I'm just saying a mechanical engineer with dilapidating infrastructure is a person we need tomorrow. So, but in terms of public works, we have to create a pause and all those things. So I think those are issues that I think we forward. Defense, until the money is in well done to defense, based on the money, what month I said, until the money we got, I'm still not to the general in respect. We're dealing here mainly with the SMS. Yeah, it's got more women than men, but SMS, then we have to really make sure that at least there's that balance to improve. I think the president might have indicated that I've requested that at least if you can bring these positions of SMS in respect of the department, let's look for making sure that women come into those positions. Like, for instance, I mean, one of our biggest competent ladies, our RM from Cape Town, she's resigned now. She's a female, so we must now fill the post, because Eastern Cape decided to steal her from us, but we don't have a problem with that. We work with her still in the main. And the people with disabilities, probably we need to show the numbers in a business so that there are no issues. Honorable Pals, I think, thank you for commending us on the property rates. I think I also commend the CFO for that, because we really are causing a lot of problems. We really pay our rates as far as possible. The late payments of records, I did explain, it's one of those issues. And then the levels, of course, maybe on the vacancies, yeah, I'll actually allow her to just maybe on that score to respond on the level, of course, that the breakdown on the vacancies, so that the disposal process, I think, goes with the issue of governance. I think I want to confirm that the issue of disposal of the assets cannot happen without the minister's approval. So that's the first part. And the process towards that has got to start at a level where there is no need for that particular asset. That would have been determined by the department. In some instances, you find that some of these things, let me make an example. If there's a house that we don't need, we will identify that we don't need that house, but other departments might say they want to utilize. So we will actually focus on where government is going to benefit more and then deal with it. So when it's disposed, I don't think there's going to be issues around the process per se, because everything will be done in a transparent manner, and people will have to follow the PFM process in respect of that particular area. Measures put in place, Honorable Boss, to deal with cancellation of contract. Like I was explaining, it's difficult at this point. This of funds really put us in when these things get cancelled. It's a bit of a challenge. We really struggle. We have to assess this audit action plans. I think at a particular point in time too, but I think the minister has instructed us to deal with those branches or which in time since the written letter, especially just to highlight on the issues of parliamentary questions that are delayed outside the parliamentary time frames that is required. Same with this, I think also some couple I think we are pushing that as well. Respect when it does is summer. Honorable Telang, issues, and also the issue of let me put it this way: with construction, there are a lot of projects, or we call it a project, and they don't accept
loss the department. Also, with the department pushing processes to recover such loss. And they also want to do that. Then
in terms of DPWI, and 50-50 between counting income. For DPWI, we add from base, 50% of the vacancies would be and above, and 50% below. When we deal with PMTE, it is different. It is 2% vacancy from level 10. I'm sorry, from level 11 upwards. And then the rest would be 7 to 8%. So it must be the lower level we're looking at. The impact is a bit of a difficult question to answer. The way I see it is that the department has been filling posts and filling posts like this. Somebody says to me, there's a vacant toilet, and they don't look at the broader impact on the organization. So what you find is that we've got in DPWI 57 unfunded vacancies. We also have in PMT close to 200 new posts that are for, which is close to 200 million for the new posts. So the point is to have met with many of you to hear your concerns. And so we're busy working on it. This is your COE budget. Once you make a decision to the establishment, it impacts your ability to full provision. Once you actually decide full requisition, you must not forget that you can't come to me and say the vacancies. You have to make your we will be adding on an additional day DGs as well. It's in March or April, where the DDGs will make a explicit decision on what options that is on our structure for their benefit in terms of refocusing. I think those were
okay. On this, what will you
I don't know those things are come in. If there is any
okay, Papa.
This whole thing gone off.
Online. Sasa was online. Just quickly check if she's back. Miss Saban, are you still online?
Okay.
Get the resolution right.
once again, friends, once again, I thank the opportunity chair. Please, the portfolio committee and minutes from the Norman's Well, not as part of the report, because the corporate structures that process this issue. I think this is a combination of various departments, compiling departments, and there is no way where I have participated in this process. This issue is as a result, if I contradict the report, I'll be doing so because I'm honest to the oath. But the first one, I think we must not understand or sugarcoat. If you look on the performance per quarter, quarter one, it is April to June last year. And that achieved that 50% only because at the sixth administration, we tried to prepare for a year in advance and said, what we start implement. But up July to September, we've declined to 33, and we've declined to 34 now. And that tells you that there is an issue that we must resolve. If that decline is going down, and when it goes down, it tells you that the ending quarter, which is ending in a few days, it's ending in 25 days. Né? The final quarter is ending in 25 days. Now, I'm saying this because we should favor with you and favor you with two things. Firstly, a turnaround strategy that addresses the performance that went down during quarter 2 and 3. We should have came with that turnaround strategy. And that the final quarter will achieve so much. Right now, we don't have that, and unfortunately, we have to come empty-handed. I've gone through the documents and the presentation, but we should have already on our own, as we did the previous year, begin to say for the next financial year, this is the plan, including developing business plans and costing and ensure that you hit the ground running. So I will be uncomfortable because there are things that are very worrisome at a strategic level, which we should have discussed if we had an engagement on our own. There is a slide that deals with construction project management. It highlights the failures that all initiatives that we aim to fast track implementation are on red. PMU, 10 key project, establishment of panel of contractors, establishment of panel of professional services. Also, you just take it, professional service panel. In the department, we used to have a problem where they would appoint individual professional services. One company to do engineering, one company to design, one company to do this. We then said, no, if you have a police station, have one company that deals with professional services there. Because you will find that the collapse of a project because one thing moves one company, and then that company, it will not be paid. Then delay the next company needs to continue. Now, that slide tells you that you have a problem, you will have a problem of the fourth quarter performance. But what also worsens the situation, I'm told that there is a change in the DDGs. And the worst is that the facility management and CPM are now under one DDG. And they were previously separated. And it will tell you that that bureaucratic centralization is going to lead us down. It's unfortunate. It is going to lead us down because he has now to first oversee 2 branches that are not working, that have different tasks. We should have came here if we had a time to meet, not to lament. If in administration we say PMTE audit action plan, out of 8 branches, 4 branches submitted audit action after due date. We then continue and say, out of 11 branches, 2 branches submitted audit action plan after due date. Now you can see that here we should be saying now, well, we improve financial performance. Now, we should be saying to the CFO, let's activate a warrant on daily basis. But having said so, let me leave that. No, I disagree fully. It is wrong to say the appointment is because of DPSA. No, it's not that. And what Sasa said, I think was done some years ago. In 2023, it was finalized, where DDGs were told to go through their branches and say, these are the skills we need. It was done in 2023. It was finalized later, May 2023. I was then a minister. I signed it and sent it to DPSA. Because of elections and all, DPSA came back in July and said, look, it's a new administration, start afresh. Now, if we blame DPSA, we are wrong. We are wrong and misleading. We're not telling the truth. If in a month, if we respect you, we will be unfair to Minister Tellis. He entered the office together with the DG, they came back. I'm not aware of the process that was referred to by DG, Miss DG Corporate Service. Now, what I'm aware is that when DPSA brought it back in July, the department under her, they started working on this position. Prioritize these positions. They submission went through all of them. To my desk, I signed it and it left my office to the minister's office on the 1st of October last year. 1st of October, so you can count October, November, you may not count December, January, February. Now, here we are, but that blame should not go there. They've been acting, and myself and the DG can confirm that even on contract post, decline or accept. So let's not apportion blame, because if we apportion the blame, we mean that the portfolio committee must summon the minister of Department of Public Service and Administration. That will be very wrong because it's not their fault. It's us who are seated with this information. So these are vacancies, majority of them that are professionals. They are at a professional level. You're talking about, as you asked, you're talking about architects, engineers, and all of that. So those are posts that are there. I still have a copy, and I signed and sent the memo. On the list, there are two things that we agreed on. There is an AG report that said top 10 of the list must be investigated. We then said, yes, SIU investigate all. But there was a study conducted by the private sector. For the private sector conducted a study and said, how much do we pay per square meter? They said, in this area, we pay between this and this. We took that study. It is called Rude Report. We took that study and said to the department, use this as a baseline. Don't go above this threshold. Never. We were clear. And then we further developed a plan which was adopted by the cabinet of bringing department to government buildings through Operation Bring Back and Renovate, Operate and Transfer. I think on the issue of payment of contracts, I would say we need a standardized process. One, it should not be about who is speaking to who. It should be a standardized process.
Yeah.
It should not be, no, I've got an access to DG or CFO. What should happen is, one, you've got a call center. Every week, you have a summary of cases in the call center. Then you have a follow-up. If there is a query is then referred to a unit that deals with that. That unit might have people who have law and people skilled with finance, and then that particular work that was done. So in that sense, you'll be able to say, case number 1 was reported on this day. We checked, no, it was just a technical issue, we resolved it. We checked, we found that there was a complaint of corruption here. There is an element of corruption. We have sent it to this unit. And this is the unit that now is investigating this matter. And that's how we should be working on Operation Riapata. I thought I should comment on those issues. I would have loved to put my comment in the department, but I think we don't have a proper structure where we input on how we execute our APP and the strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, honourable members, Minister.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Let me try and deal with some of the questions that have been put to us today. When it comes to project preparation, I think it's important, Honourable Baridi, to understand how infrastructure projects are budgeted and the preparation and the lead time that takes place. So an infrastructure project doesn't happen necessarily within a financial year. And one of the things that we need to get right with National Treasury is how our budget for infrastructure projects, that they have budgets of 3 or 5 years, because that project preparation finance may not necessarily be spent within the financial year. And we need to get that right so that ESA is not seen to not be spending money, but because the timelines are not within a financial year, it seems so. Let me just say that I think that a number of people, thank you, Honourable Kobe, for the compliment, that you're absolutely right, that we must do everything within the law. We can't just send out money or pay for things when people don't comply, because that incentivizes bad behavior. And I really want to underline that as a theme in our department, that we stick to the law, we make sure that we read everything by the book all the time. And so we not deviate from compliance with the law. Let me say on revenue collection, we would release in that law. In fact, we wrote to the chairperson on the 17th September last year, provided a list of every single member of parliament, minister, deputy minister, and former politicians who owe this department millions of rands. And we said, please, can you help us? Can you call these people? Can you get these people to come here and tell you why they are not paying us? And we've never had a response, or we've had no assistance from the committee chairperson in that regard. So we've actually now written to the Secretary of Parliament, and we've said, please, can you start docking MP salaries so that we can get money. Let me say that on project approvals and the work of infrastructure projects, because we've got to fast track and make sure that an example of a company that was awarded by the Department of Public Works that I was given advice that I said absolutely Stop giving money to companies who cannot. 250 million rand has been spent on that center, and it's 37% complete in 10 years. And that's why we are creating the special projects unit, so we can make sure that projects are done on time and on budget, that we fast track approvals, and we hold contractors' feet to the fire so that they deliver on time. Let me say on the issue of bursaries, and this is something that we have now instituted requirement that if you get a bursary from this department, you must work for 2 years within South Africa or for the department. You cannot just get a bursary and then leave and go and work in Dubai. So we want people to be able to keep their skills. Now, obviously, what we have to do in years to come is make sure that we can start absorbing some of those professionals in 4 or 5 years' time or 6 years when they finish their degrees, so they can come and work as engineers, as architects, quantity surveyors, and so on. Because this is a hot topic. We spend 6 billion rand a year on leases in this department. And when we started asking questions around how these leases are put together or what the processes are, particularly after, to the credit of the MK party, started saying there were 1 or 2 individuals that get the majority of leases, we wanted to understand why and how that is. So when we started going through the leases, it was very clear that A, that prices were not market reflective, B, that the processes undertaken were questionable at best, and thirdly, that the question of is there a government building or is there a government building that could be used for it, that question was never answered. Let me give you an example. We're currently investigating, so I won't go beyond more than the information I can give you. There is a lease for a department office in Cape Town that has been quantified at 830 million rand over 10 years. And 30 million rand for one department for their office to be in Cape Town. That is extraordinary. It is utterly extraordinary. There was another lease that was brought to us for 370 million rand for a building in Tshwane in the city center. Now, I would argue that there's not a building that's worth 370 million rand in the city of Tshwane at the moment. And so it's very clear that there is a massive problem. So what did we do about it? We said, well, I'll tell you what we want to do is we want to ensure that there is concurrence between the minister's office and what is going on in the leasing department. Because I'm the first person who then gets accused of having all of these leases that are not value for money. The minister cannot sign leases, but there can be concurrence with the minister's office. Now, when we started getting all of these leases, we said, we want you to answer questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still to date, we do not have answers to any of those leases. So the reason that leases are not being signed is not because there's a moratorium on leases being signed. It's because the information cannot be given to satisfy the DG and myself as the accounting officer that these leases are actually bona fide and genuine. And we saw what happened, honorable members, under the Rushavangu Day, where a lease is provided for R1 billion. They then use that to go and get money to buy a building that is worth 100 million rand, and they profit the balance. That's what's going on. We have also referred to the SIU to investigate the top 10, Mando? Top 10 most leases by value. And we understand forensically how were those leases awarded and how did they take place. So yes, there's growing frustration about it, but I can't at the one hand say, well, just go ahead, and then on the other hand, say that we're here to protect the public's money. So it's a chicken and egg situation, but when we resolve it, and there are further discussions taking place around that, then I'm confident that a policy of how these things should be done will save the department money. And the very first question, honorable members, that should be asked, can they be accommodated in a government building somewhere, or can the value of that lease be used to renovate a government building? So I hope that clarifies there. Let me say that I think that I would recommend maybe to the committee that actually the committee think about calling these municipalities to appear that do not comply with the basic laws of DORA and our own requirement of making sure that that documents are filled in correctly and are provided to us on time to make payments. Because the only other option is for us to make officials available to do that, which then becomes a cost to us to administer those programs even more than they are. So I think between COGTA and between municipalities, they need to deal with capacity there. Let me just deal with this issue of non-payment of invoices. I'd refer the committee to page 38, which shows the snapshot of invoices received for the year to January 2025. 98% of those invoices are paid within 30 days. Only 2% of invoices were not paid within 30 days. So it is in the document, and I hope that that maybe just satisfies the committee there. Let me also just say that we must be careful when contractors contact the committee. There's an example where a contractor who was contracted for the inauguration didn't fulfill the end of the contract and still wanted to be paid in full for not completing their job. They went around contacting MPs, there were all sorts of things like that. And when you'll recall that it was found that the contract was incomplete, but they wanted to create this idea that they weren't paid. So I think we must always, and we're very happy to give, input. If you ever do get those questions, you can refer them to my office, but we must be careful that contractors aren't allowed to play people off of each other in the pursuit of their goals. And I think there was a question about IDT. We are now considering the the long list of names that were provided to my office to fill the 5 vacancies. And they have complied with the trust deed document that indeed it was the IDT that had to provide those names for the vacancies. We received them on Friday. I do hope that we will finalize that soon, so we can get the IDT back on track in doing what it needs to. In terms of additional money that's owed to us, I have been quite strong with ministers. We're going to have taking action against people, and if we have to take legal action to recover that money, then so. But it cannot be that departments are to take unilateral decisions to cut their budgets for accommodation charges without any consultation. That is not right. It is not fair, and I don't accept it, because at the end of the day, it was money out of other, and it makes us financially unviable. And so, if that's the behavior of I think it leaves a lot to question, but we've taken a strong stance. The president supports the work that we are doing on that. We those details to the president's office and to other arms of state that owe us money. I'm sure that if you want us to provide a service, A, you must pay us what is expected, and B, you must pay us on would ever accept that. Let me say, Honourable Obi, in terms of I think that you are right there. That sometimes we are set up to fail, and there are KPIs that we will never, in my performance of the last quarter is reflective of the point that you make. And if you outstrip those KPIs that are or based for another reason, that our performance is higher, and I'm fairly confident on that. Let me also just say that the performance that we report is accurate, even to the point that it's maybe to our detrimental purpose, that I would rather be absolutely flat out honest with you and say, this is where we failed here, here, and here, and this is why it's 0 here, here, and here, even if it shouldn't be there because of the points that you make. Let me say that we look at a review within the department. I've instructed the CFO to conduct a 3-month spending review, and we will look to see where are programs or projects or line items that are non mission around growth and jobs. And we have to be brutally systems that do not deliver on that. We must seek to reprioritize funding performance checks. I've spoken about the turnaround strategy on leasing, and hopefully we'll make some good announcements on that. And the policy around that. We call it a step test, Honourable Kobe. So we say step one, it's about a 5-step test, and that you have to meet those steps and you have to be able to answer and provide sufficient details. So when we had asked for information, and as an example, we were just given a line item and sort of the cost, not the addresses, not who the leasing agents are, etc., etc. So we are requiring a lot more information so that we can cut down that leasing budget to the point that it needs to. Thank you for your commendation on EPWP. And let me tell you, Honourable Kobe, maybe you saw yesterday we were in Mpumalanga, and the president made a commitment when we handed over bridges to Mpumalanga there. The community were complaining they don't get tickets that in those projects, and the president do this. He said, absolutely, give it to me, we'll give them. So he made the announcement in December. Yesterday, we fulfilled that promise, and we issued 150 certificates to people who had been involved in that program, and we worked with the municipality. And the municipality actually going to start employing those people full time because the 15-year-old daughter, and I know what it's like to lose someone. I lost my mother when I was 14, and so we as a department have committed to help her and her family just to get them there. It can't be about so that talks to the reform that we are doing in EPW and how we want to make it a stepping stone based on skills into long-term employment. And hopefully when we finish the final work around that, we'll come and share that, because that's hugely exciting that we're doing with the government employee agencies. Let me say, in terms of the matrix on employee makeup, I think that's been answered, and I hope you're satisfied on that point there. I want to talk about huge problems in those there are some regions that have way overspent budgets because of these contracts and how they work. And that is why we believe that there is a strong link and strong case to be made for CPM and FM to be merged into one unit that deals with issues around construction, around maintenance, because they are intrinsically linked, and to have better oversight and better control over what is going on in regions. And I'm absolutely convinced that will pay off. Honourable Barth, I think I've mentioned your questions. Let me say, Honourable Lange, I think I've spoken around that. The process of filling posts is very easy. It's regulated by the Public Service Act, and the Public Service Act determines how panels must be put together, the process, adverts, how they're done, etc., etc. And we stick to those to the T, even again to our own detriment when an interview was about to take place, and it had been pointed out that actually the advert did not comply with the PSA, and unfortunately we had to re-advertise that one. Let me say that you asked me, is there leadership for PMTE and FM and how are we dealing with this? I've answered the FM part. Let me say that I have absolute confidence in Mr. Sibande as our head of PMTE. He is a man with a bold vision for PMTE. And the work that he is doing, I'm absolutely convinced is going to pay off to make PMTE into the state company that we want, that houses the property portfolio of the government that generates revenue that we can use in other projects. And just as an example, by way of example, the 31 projects or 31 properties we've released for public comment, when those are fully done, we estimate that we'll receive 200 million rand a year in rental income from those properties. Just 30. I mean, unbelievable. Scale that up. And this company could be producing billions in rental income that could be for social infrastructure. And I think that that is a project we're fighting for and going. The question, absolutely, that is a pilot project. I think the Deputy Minister was going to have a look at that at some point. Let me also just say that we are conducting a skills audit across all of our senior management. We want to understand what skills and do those match those jobs. And not to say that you must go. It's just how do we capacitate you to be able to better job so that we can get more from people to do better. So I hope that helps. I also just want to say, honourable members, there were some questions around sort of I just referred you to the legislation. It 11 gave you that process of where we are. I know it was from 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, but maybe those just been lost on members. So I just wanted just to recall that. And then, of course, our spending is absolutely spot on, 74%. And we're ready. It's not that we've only spent 74% for the quarter. We're on target for 4 quarters. We then spend the balance of the budget in the fourth. I hope that we haven't in writing the chair's office, or if there are any questions that you wanted to ask but couldn't do so, please feel free to do that. You don't have to following questions to do so. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. I think that first issue when you send us those questions in writing, you have to give us the list of those municipalities, include the list of those municipalities. Can we get to this issue that is bothering me? I'm sure even other members. It's important. It's bad that I have to remind other members and the executive that we both took an oath. Oath that in the main is more about being faithful and loyal. Then because we are also politicians, from each understanding of the revolution depends on the philosophy and perspective comes. But in the main is to expose injustice or the wrongs. Now I'm taken aback on the contribution by the Deputy Minister on the area that I think this talks to, let me first speak about our understanding or our assumption. Our assumption is that there is a way that a ministry is supposed to work. And when we come to the portfolio committee, we see the ministry as well as the department in oneness. I don't think that the committee, we can allow the assertion by the DM to disappear with the noise. If we make that has that the department is under-reported and gave facts on those. This could assess the members in with a different lessons. That if there is this, what does it mean? Because when the department reports, it's all under oath when they report to the yeah, we're dealing with infrastructure.
Public work.
Public work. Yeah. And in the main, you have to adopt it. Now it gives us a problem. In particular, I'm sharing the meeting, then we experience. Because this compromise the report. Well, not the report, it compromises. And the minister made the out of his diploma. Not even on this matter.
That's one name.
Sorry.
Now, I thought that the minister will assist us here. Because this speaks to the style of work of the department. We don't expect what you are getting here because which is on our side is a good way. Also engaged with this minister assistant.
So, Chair, if there are any allegations that this person is welcome to bring those to my office. Let me also just say that I also choose my space and time, whether it's the Deputy Minister or anyone wants to engage me, everyone knows where my office is. They're welcome to come to me. But I think that with respect, whatever interpersonal issues may or may not exist between myself and anyone else, it's not for the committee or the executive to deal with. But again, if there are allegations of incorrectness to my office, but I'm also he said, she said here in the committee, because that would be entirely inappropriate of me, or to use your words, undiplomatic, because I actually do practice diplomacy in public, because we have a department to run and image issues. That would be my position. Thank you.
All of members, you've got if there are any
No.
Okay.
No.
I will start it inside. Deliberations was the point of order.
The department. Once we report, you will then say you are satisfied with the report, or you note our report. As a department, you can go. Place here. But it is a that is wrong. Thank you.